as far as clarity would be remotely okay up and through like the 4th of July weekend. After the 4th of July weekend, when they had like 5,000 people in there,
Yeah.
it was like a mud pit.
Yeah, wasn't
All
their
those
team,
kids running in sand.
wasn't their team named the Mud Rats? Centennial Mud
Yep,
Rats.
yep.
It is to this day.
There is. All right, we're gonna get started here. Thank you to everyone for joining. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Gonna just go through a few questions and answers and ask you about some history of Illinois swimming for you and beyond, and then have some time at the end for the athletes to ask you some questions. So start out by saying welcome, and how are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Just trying to stay active and positive during this time. And yeah, I'm happy to be here with you guys.
So obviously, if you hopped on the call in the last few minutes, you've heard Coach Dave and Coach Dave and Kevin talking about what Kevin's been up to. You're back in Georgia.
Yeah, I'm in Athens, Georgia right now. Yeah.
And you're back in the water today. Was your first day back in?
Last week we got to get in the water. We got to touch water a little bit. Yeah, I've been swimming in a backyard pool that's like 17 yards long. It's kind of like an obstacle course. There's some benches and a hot tub, protruding. So I have to watch out where I'm kicking breaststroke and all that stuff. A lot of waves, but it's good to get in the water and feel some sort of normal.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, and I know all the athletes here are kind of itching to get back in the water. We're hopeful that hopefully sometime in the next 3 weeks we'll be able to start phasing into being in the pools again. So to talk about your history of swimming, from what I can find, you started swimming when you were about 7 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, 6 years old. Summer league. Yeah.
The Naperville City Summer League, the famous Naperville Summer League.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
White Eagle.
So you definitely competed in for those of you that don't know about the Naperville Olympics, it's about 31 summer league teams. It gets crazy intense, and that was your first taste of real competitive swimming, was in that environment?
Yeah. So yeah, it was over the summer. I remember just being a small kid. I think my mom had to wait in line to sign me up like last minute because I think she forgot to do it. So she had to get down there and sign me up. And, it was probably the best thing that ever happened. It's a summer league. We would train in the mornings at your local subdivision pool. And then there was the city meet, which was called the Naperville Olympics, because everyone took it way too seriously. Some people wouldn't go to senior state or JOs, and they would miss those meets just to go to the Naperville city meet, because it was that important to everyone there.
Okay, so you started out there, and then you began club swimming somewhere around 7, and was that at Maverick Swim Club?
Yeah, 7 at Maverick Swim Club, yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming that since you started swimming at 7 and you're an Olympian, that you were just automatically the best swimmer in the pool in every single stroke. Is that right?
No, yeah, absolutely not.
So how did you start out?
So I started out, I think I was okay at every single stroke. I think I neglected my technique and just relied on pure I want to get to the wall first. But I think since I was 6 years old till now, I still can't float on my back very well, so I still can't swim backstroke. But so 6 and under was just freestyle and backstroke, and then went to 7 and 8 year olds and went into club swimming. I had to learn butterfly and breaststroke. And I don't know when it really struck, like when I figured out breaststroke, but I think I remember my dad telling me he was watching me at Waubonsie Valley High School, and I was warming up for a meet that we had there. And he said he just looked down and I was swimming breaststroke. He's like, oh, he's got it. But before that, I was having a terrible time trying to figure out all the mechanics and everything like that. So that was when kind of breaststroke clicked. But at that point, I still couldn't swim legal fly. So, it's kind of a give and take.
IM was still a struggle is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you move on through club swimming and, 10, 11, 12, qualifying for age group state. Did you win any events when you were at age group state in those early age group years?
Yeah. So I think my best year was when I was 10. I think I won the breaststrokes. I was still pretty decent at the other strokes. I think that's when I was like pretty good at age group. And then 11, 12, and 13 were probably my toughest years. I wasn't really seeing the reward I had when I was 9 and 10. And so with that, kids getting older, growing at different rates and stuff like that, you can't really compare yourself to anyone else. All you can really do is focus on what you're doing to get better every single day. So I still had that confidence that I was going to, eventually get over the hump, and, just by keep working, keep doing the things I needed to do, and, staying true to myself, just staying confident and positive. By the time I was 14, I think that's when I was like, okay, I can take this next step.
Okay, so you call them struggles. We'll say if that's the right word or not. I think a lot of swimmers here think that, hey, when I'm 10, when I'm 11, I got to be focused on swimming only, and swimming is the only thing I should be doing. I've seen the ads, and if none of you guys on this call have seen the ads when swimming was pushing out last year, they talked a lot about this being the funnest sport and doing multiple sports, and your face was all over them. So I am going to assume that you were not a singular sport athlete as a youngster. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, I played all the other sports: football, basketball, baseball. I played every sport I could get my parents to drive me to, basically. But yeah, so I love playing all these different sports. So like a typical weekend for me would be going to a swim meet in the morning, having my parents drive me to a basketball tournament, and I'd be changing in the car, and then they'd have to take me back to a swim meet. And I think that really helped me because it helped me with, getting burnt out, and, just kind of taking my mind off swimming a little bit. But the one thing I loved about swimming was competing and racing, and that's something that couldn't be duplicated in any of the other sports. But yeah, I think playing a bunch of different sports is very key because, you get to grow as an athlete. There's so many different things you can learn through team sports that you can carry over into swimming that I learned. And, I know a lot of people, some of my close teammates in high school and stuff, all they did was swim growing up. And then when it got to the point of taking that next step, they were kind of burnt out a little bit, and I never felt that. And everyone has their different path, but for me, I found that a little bit of balance between different things, kept me motivated and kept me engaged in the sport that I love so much.
Okay, so you're 14, your freshman year of high school, you go to Neuqua Valley High School in Naperville, and at that point you decide for whatever reason to make a club change. And you begin swimming at Fox with Coach Krodiak, who's also on the call. How were those first few days with Coach Dave?
Well, they were great because so I did my freshman year, and I was still part of Maverick. And then I remember being on, so I was playing for Neuqua Valley, and yeah, I remember I made like the JV blue team, which was not even the best JV team. So it goes JV blue, JV gold, and then varsity. Yeah, so I wasn't even able to make the varsity team. And luckily, I was only good at one thing, which is breaststroke. So sometimes they'd bring me over to train with them or do a kick set or something like that. And that's when I first got introduced to Dave. He came over and gave me some pointers. And I thanked him because it got me out of a little bit of the set. Because, yeah,
It's being used.
Yeah, but I definitely appreciated that for sure. But then, yeah, then I joined Fox, and I remember some of the first stuff he did with me was, I had no discipline really. I was just straight go, 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 not really thinking too much. And I think he helped me realize what my strengths and weaknesses were. And when I first started working with him, I was taking like 9 strokes a lap or 10 strokes a lap, just being a jackrabbit. And the first thing he made me do was he put a limit on the amount of strokes I could take, which was 6 strokes. And, that was very difficult at the time because I was going way slower than I would have normally been doing with what I was doing. But it really taught me technique. I had to really focus on my technique, be as precise as possible. And that's going to help me later on. So it went from 6 strokes down to 5 strokes, down to 4 strokes. And by the time I was a senior, he would only let me do 4 strokes a lap no matter what, even if we're going fast or slow. So I could have gone faster in some of those sets, but he's teaching me the discipline that I would need at the end of the season.
So, Coach Dave, what do you remember those initial impressions of Kevin? Was he a jackrabbit, as he called it, just spinning through the water?
Yeah, I was like, look at that guy go. He was like a spinning top. He was exciting to watch, but he wasn't, disciplined in what he was doing. His underwater pulls and kicks would be barely outside the flags, and so he would just randomly take like 2-3 strokes and not cover a whole lot of ground, but you could see the effort was there. So, I knew that he was known for being very talented. I had a bunch of guys that were extremely talented in other strokes, and so I think that helped keep him grounded, that there were a lot of other people around him that could get things done in different directions. But he was right away a great teammate and very coachable. Probably one of the best attributes through my whole relationship with him was that he was so coachable.
So you go from JV blue as a freshman to your sophomore year of high school, winning the high school state meet in 100 breast. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty big jump all of a sudden in one season. Would you agree? Yeah,
definitely. It was a huge jump. But yeah, like Dave was saying, we had a great team at Nequa, and I got to watch people like Brian Alden, who could win a state title in any single stroke. Watch what he would do, watch what all the older guys would do. And luckily, like my freshman year, like the only thing I could really compete in was kick sets. So I would be the annoying kid that would come over and race everyone in a kick set and try to beat the top guys. So, I could kind of see, like, I kind of learned from their competitiveness and being over there a little bit. But yeah, then working with Dave, and well, the funny story was after my freshman year, I was going to football camp, and we had swim practice in the morning. And I told Dave I had to leave early, and he was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like, "Well, I have football camp." And he's like, "All right, we're going to talk about this." And at that point, I never thought of not doing football or, what I was going to do. And he kind of told me, what he thought and, what did I really want to get out of the sport. And, it made me realize, I wanted to be the best, but also, get a college scholarship, X, Y, and Z. So that day is kind of when I fully committed to swimming. And it was a little bit of a learning curve. So that was my first year kind of doing a morning practice and through the fall. And, I think just staying engaged and, kind of going through that entire process and, doing what I should be doing. And also, staying true to all that. And also growing helped, I guess. But yeah, so I don't know. I kind of just had a goal in mind that I want to, make the state meet, be in the final, and, win that. I wanted to get a banner up on my high school wall. That's kind of what I told myself, like every single day. Like growing up at all these high schools, I saw banners with people's names on it as state champions. And that was like, at that point, that was my ultimate goal, is to get one of those banners. So, I mean, every single day, that would kind of constantly run through my mind. I would just have to like look up and see one of those banners. I'd kind of get re-engaged. And that's even what I told myself throughout that whole entire race, was especially on the final turn, like when I pushed off, I was like, I'm getting the banner. And that's kind of what motivated me to do that.
So you win as a sophomore, and obviously you're ascending and getting significantly faster. And those of us as coaches on this call, we remember that this is the point where there's another breaststroker in the state who kind of started going with you. And we were lucky enough to watch basically a 2.5 period of you and a gentleman named Matt Elliott. Really, I mean, just taking a notch above anybody else, not only in the state, but in the country in breaststroke. What was that like, having a competitor like Matt and someone to push you and motivate you and race against at that time? I
mean, it was huge. It was huge for me. I mean, he won when we were freshmen, so he won freshman year. I'm pretty competitive, so I think that really pushed me and kind of got me just thinking about, that's where I want to be. I want to be right there with him. I want to, go out there, not make it easy for him at all, and, eventually just, give it my all out there. And I think that relationship, that give and take, for me was huge, because, every single day I would wake up and, go to practice. I knew he was working his butt off, to be state champion or be the best, get the state record in the 100 breaststroke, or, and he swam 200 IM and everything like that. So I knew he was doing what he had to do. So that motivated me even more throughout the entire 4 years of high school.
Okay, so your junior and senior year, you guys dueled at both the high school state meet and then at the NCSA meet down in Orlando. And I know from a coaching perspective, I know I talked to Coach Dave about this today. One of our favorite races between the two of you was the 200 breaststroke. I believe it was your senior year in Orlando, where you guys both went 156. Is that what it was? Do you remember that? Do you remember that race and the significance of that race for you? Because that seemed to be a big jump from where your previous 200 breaststrokes were even just a year earlier.
Yeah, that was a huge race for me. It really gave me confidence in the 200, because, as Dave knows, I did not like that race. I did not enjoy it. I was scared of it. I would dread it that day, the 200 day. Back in the day, because from a training perspective, and I would say I'm not like a true 200 breaststroker, but from a stroke perspective, that's probably where I fit in real nice. So Dave was slowly trying to teach me that the 200 was my event, and I was resisting at every turn. I was not hearing it. But I took that as a challenge. And, after that race, I realized I, felt pretty good, and I was like, okay, maybe Dave is right. And after that, I was like, okay, there's a difference between the 100 and the 200. And now I kind of know what's happening there, and training for the 200 will have serious benefits. So yeah. So
were you and forgive me, this one I don't know. I mean, you obviously were very comfortable in short course throughout your swimming. Were you equally as comfortable in long course right from the beginning, or is that just something that you gradually got more and more comfortable with as you got older?
Yeah, no, I think I gradually got more and more comfortable with it as I got older. yeah, it's not necessarily the focus until, you know, when you're a little bit older. Like, you know, I felt I was okay getting thrown in there and just, you know, giving it my all, but trying to hone short course, that took me up until college. And then now grasping long course, that took me like past college, because, you know, you only get like 2 or 3 months in the summer to really focus on it. So yeah, I would say I wasn't necessarily comfortable with it until after college.
Okay. So obviously, you know, you've really started to push now. You're 156 in the 200. You're 53, if I believe, 53 low in the 100 before you go to college. And then, you know, you obviously have a lot of schools that are looking at you, and you decide to go to the University of Arizona. What drew you to the University of Arizona?
Well, yeah, I took 5 trips, and well, I always make the joke that my first criteria was if they have a cold pool, they're out. But no, on a serious note, I think what I really loved about Arizona was I love the coaching staff, which was great. But when I went on my trip, all the guys on the team, I knew I was going to be with these guys for 4 years, and I felt the most comfortable with them, on top of the coaches being great. And I know you have to deal with your teammates every single day, and that was like the main factor. And being outside, being warm weather didn't hurt either. So all those things combined kind of helped me choose Arizona.
Well, and you brought up the coaching staff, and correct me if I'm wrong. You're a great example of that, though, of going to a school because of the school and the team, and not necessarily the coaches. You had a couple coaching changes while you were at Arizona, didn't you?
Yeah, I got recruited by Frank Bush, who had been the coach there since the 80s. Yeah, he'd won a couple national titles there. And yeah, he recruited me and I signed to him. And later that year, he left to take the USA swimming's head coaching position. And so I'm sitting there after I signed without a coach, of course, after I went through everything like that. And yeah, luckily Eric Hansen got the job at University of Arizona. But I was sitting there for a couple of weeks not really knowing what was happening. And I knew I loved Arizona. I loved the school. And I met with Eric and I felt comfortable, and, you know, still ended up going. And yeah, it was the best decision I could have made for my swimming career.
So you go to Arizona, and now it's November. You're still 18 years old. You're at the Texas Invite. And so we're only, 6 months from when you went 53, and you go 51 in the 100 breast and break the national age group record at the time. What was going through your mind at that point? I mean, that's a huge jump at that age, that quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it was a crazy fall semester. I learned a lot. Yeah, making the jump to college, I got to train with an amazing group of breaststrokers. You know, I think one of the first couple practices, the first weeks, we did a heart rate set, and I was getting lapped. And, you know, our heart rate's supposed to be like 180, 190. I'm getting lapped and my heart rate's like 220. So I was a little worried at that point. I was like, what did I get myself into? And luckily one of the coaches was like, oh, you can take a 50 off, don't worry. But yeah, I wasn't having any of it. I was like, all right, I need to get my stuff together. And, you know, training with those guys every single day, just inching closer and closer to them, whether that be in, you know, when we're doing like a lactate set or, you know, a heart rate set like that, just kind of standing my ground, just keep doing what I'm doing, get better little by little. I knew that when it came to racing, I could step up. You know, I always consider myself like a gamer or a racer. Usually I'm not necessarily the best in practice. So, you know, just trying to keep up with those guys, they made me so much better. And yeah, I don't know, just that first race, I kind of just blacked out and just took off, and it was crazy. Yeah. It was awesome.
So it sounds like you did a really good job of focusing on the things that you could control and not worrying about the things that you couldn't, obviously, especially in a new environment like that at Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I kind of, seeing what those guys were doing and knowing like what I have done and having confidence in myself and my racing ability, I knew that, if I just slowly catch up to them, if I can even catch up to them a little bit, I know I'm going to beat them. And when it comes to a race. And so like, if I can slowly catch up and actually be with them or beat them in a practice, it's game over in a race. So I kind of just use those I kind of use that mentally to, stay with it, even though I was getting lapped or, kind of just struggling a little bit. I kind of use that as a little bit of a motivation to keep getting better.
So then you go to college, obviously you're a freshman, you're a freshman when nothing's expected of you. And obviously you've told us how your freshman year you go to NCAAs and you win the 100 breast and you get third in the 200 breast, the event that you didn't think you were that strong at. Not a bad freshman year. All right. Slingshot into that comes the Olympic trials, and it's your first trials in 2012. You're this guy that has won NCAAs, but by your own voice, not really a long course focus at that point. What were you expecting at that first trials?
Well, after that first year at NCAAs, I had a lot of confidence. So I thought, there's a shot. So I wasn't going to think too much besides that. Just know that I'm going to try to put myself in a position to be in that final and do what I have to do in that final race. So kind of just keep doing what I was doing, because at that point it was still working. And yeah, I think reassess the training and to fit long course more. And like, with breaststroke, it's a little difficult going from short course to long course, and like how much breaststroke you can do without your stroke breaking down and things like that. So those are a little bit of a learning curve. But yeah, just keep doing what I was doing, swim off my teammates and my coach, and try to prime myself for that ultimate goal.
So do you remember what your time was at the Olympic trials in 2012 in the 100 breast?
I think it was like 002 maybe. I think
002. Coach Dave, you know what it was?
I thought it wasn't a 006.
Yeah, I don't know.
You were 101 the year before.
No, I think
you were 101 before you went into high school, and I thought you dropped about a second.
Yeah.
How about the 200 breast? Remember what your 200 breast time was at trials?
Maybe like 213,
212. 212.
212.
212. So you're 212 and you're 100 in 2012 after going 51 and 153. Very respectable. So then the next year, you decide you're going to break. I had a good summer. I'm going to do something a little bit crazy. I'm going to break 2 American records in the 100 breast and the 200 breast, both in short course. 50 points.
I do want to say one thing about Olympic trials though was, I was in the 100 final and I was very happy to be there, and I knew I had to, push it in that final. I think I was first at the 50 and then I died, and I remember looking at the board and seeing I got third, and that's the place you don't want to be. So at that point, like I was feeling so many things. Like I was so proud of myself that I came that far to be able to even compete for an Olympic spot. But at the same time, I was this close away from reaching my ultimate goal that I've had since I was probably 9 or 10 years old. And the thing that stuck in my brain the most was after the race, you get drug tested. The top 3 finishers get drug tested. And I remember walking into the drug testing room, and I saw Brendan Hansen and Eric Chanteau, or the 2 people that made the Olympics. They were already in there. They were smiling, they were laughing, they were talking to each other and having the best time. So like all the relief just washed over them. You know, they just made the Olympic team. I remember walking in there, just seeing how happy they were. And that really stuck with me. I was like, I want to feel that in 2016. I want to be those guys. That's what I want to feel. And that really stuck with me. And from that point on, I kind of based my journey to 2016 off of that experience right there. So,
well, that explains a lot, because obviously, as I was going to go into it, I mean, your success over the course of the next 3+ years, you know, your male swimmer of the year 2 years in a row by winning both the 100 and the 200 breast. You break the American record in both events in short course. You end up winning the 100 breast 4 years in a row. Unbelievable for a male athlete. You first man to ever go 49 in the 100 breast in a relay, 49.5 in the 400 medley relay for Arizona. I would say that motivation obviously drove you to some unbelievable successes over the next 3 years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was kind of hard for me to watch the 2012 Olympics. I definitely didn't watch the breaststroke events. I kind of just checked. But I think that was important. Like, you know, that's kind of like the competitor in me, you know, and I kind of felt, you know, like I should be there, or I could have been there. Like, what should I have done differently? And instead of thinking those things, I refocused that into what can I do to lead to 2016. And, you know, I kind of just kept the momentum going from the year before. You know, working with a great coach that understood me, and my teammates who are amazing breaststrokers. I mean, I think my first 2 years at Arizona, we had, you know, 2 people in the A final, 2 people in the B final, and 100 and 200 both years, you know. So I had really great people to train with. Clark Burkle, who also, he made the Olympics in 2012 in the 200 breaststroke. You know, he was the one that was lapping me. And, you know, I got to train with amazing guys, and being competitive, I wanted to be able to train with them and beat them and stuff. So with that and that motivation, and, you know, kind of just staying true to who I am at the same time, the things that I learned from Dave about my stroke, about being efficient, you know, really using my kick, getting him to my line, you know, not giving up those things in order to compete with those guys in practice, but, you know, using those things to, if I could do those things and get close to them and even past them, then I know that something special is going to happen. So I kind of use all those different things to bring it together.
Okay, so now you finished your college swimming up in 2015. I glossed over it quickly, but again, you had another coaching change while you were in college to coach to Rocket. And for those people that are on the call, last time Matt Griever spoke about Rocket also, so we don't need to go into the whole Rocket story. Everyone loves him. He's a guru of sprinting. We got it. So you finished in 2015. Trials are a year away, and you make another coaching change. And this one, again, Matt spoke on, is Sergio. And you went out and started training with Sergio. Talk about Sergio's effect on your swimming going into 2016 trials.
Yeah, well, Sergio is amazing. So he was in Singapore. I remember I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go after I graduated. And, you know, I talked to a couple of different coaches. But I talked to Sergio. I remember I had to talk to him on a Saturday night at like 9 p.m. because of the time change all the way in Singapore. And yeah, it was a Saturday night, and I remember talking to him for like an hour, and I hung up the phone, and I remember I called my dad and I was like, I'm moving to Singapore. And so, yeah, don't tell mom yet.
What was living in Singapore like? My goodness, that's a big change.
Yeah, but yeah, so Sergio was great. We hit it off instantly. You know, he was a former breaststroker, and so he's very calm and, you know, kind of just a guru in that way. So I felt very comfortable with that change. But yeah, moving to Singapore was crazy. I didn't know what to expect. I think back to it this day and being like, what was I would be scared to do that now, you know? But at that time, I knew it was the right call. I knew that moving over there, putting my head down, at that point, I kind of assessed what I'd done over the last year, and I knew that it wasn't going to be good enough to do what I wanted to do. So I had to take myself and go somewhere where I could be uncomfortable. And I knew the training that he would do would be uncomfortable. And I knew I needed to do that in order to reach my ultimate goal. And so that's what I did. But yeah, living in Singapore was pretty crazy. Just at least they spoke English, which was the good part. But yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, I learned a lot about myself. You know, I got to go eat good food, crazy food, and then also just train and you know, work towards that goal.
Okay, so you uproot your life, you go completely to the other side of the globe. You push yourself to now be as uncomfortable as possible, all to set yourself up for the 2016 trials in Omaha. You went into 2012 hoping you'd have a chance. What was your mindset like going into 2016?
Well, my mindset was, you know, at that point I knew I had a good chance to make it. It was just a matter of, if I do all the necessary things and set myself up to be the best I can be, then I don't think then I will make it. You know, I kind of just drilled that into my head so that every single day I was true to that. I have to do the things I need to do and, you know, keep that dream alive, and that will happen for you. But also, yeah, being in Singapore, I kind of liked the fact that I was kind of away from everyone in USA Swimming. So everyone's like, what is he doing over there? What is he doing? You know?
So again,
yeah. You know, not showing up to any meets. So then when I come back, you know, hopefully, yeah, I kind of like that aspect of it as well.
So again, you go into trials, and you said it yourself, like, if I do what I'm supposed to do, I'm going to make the team. If you can focus and control the things that you can control, you're going to make the team. You swim the 100 breast right at the beginning of trials. You break the American record. You're an Olympian. Now you're the guy in that drug testing room. What did that feel like?
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, yeah, it was crazy. I was super nervous before that first race, prelims of the 100 breaststroke, because yeah, like I said, I've done all these things. I moved across the country, came back for a month, lived out of a hotel just so I can get my my clock back, so I can get back on the U.S. time zone. And I was super nervous because, you know, it's now or never. So yeah, after that first race, it went well, and I was like, that slowly gave me a little bit more and more confidence. But yeah, I remember being in the hotel room before finals of the 100 breaststroke, and I kind of was about to walk out the door, and you know, I never really do this, but I like turned and saw myself in the mirror, and I kind of just said to myself that the next time you're in this room, you're gonna be in the Olympics. So I kind of just like promised myself that, and yeah, I went out, and luckily that happened. But yeah, so many emotions went through my head. I mean, just going from when I was 6 years old up until now, you know, I mean, you kind of go through like that whole journey of what got you there, and you know, it's such a relief. All the practices I did were with Dave, where I was shivering and my lips were turning purple. You know, it all becomes worth it. I mean,
I was going to bring Coach Dave into this, because Coach Dave, I was in the stands at trials, and you were over my right shoulder standing up against the railing. And I am not lying, Kevin. I felt like Coach Dave swam every single stroke with you during the 100 breast. He was literally lunging forward as if he was doing your strokes with you. Coach Dave, what was that feeling like for you, seeing this athlete that you had had grown so fond of make his first team?
Well, after his race, I was pretty tired because I swam that whole race. He just
You wore him
finished
down?
ahead. That's a dream come true because, there are so many things that Kevin had to make a decision on over the years. When he decided to put football aside and just swim, to training doubles and putting up with me and having to go and grow. I can remember him being so tired. Remember that, Kevin? You were just so tired when you started doing doubles in the summertime. It's like, what did I choose to do? Like, it's amazing. But he did it, And the key thing here is that if you listen to him, he's been uncomfortable several times in his life and eventually wanted that because he knew that would advance him. So to watch somebody that has made all those changes over a strong period of time and then race an amazing race and pull it off, because Todd, it's not you just have somebody talented. So many things have to go right going into the meet that whole season, and then if somebody has to have his confidence going in. I love the thing about the looking into the mirror and and making that commitment. I'm going to tell a little story about the 2012 though, because when 2012, when he had missed it, he was third, and I can remember I went and watched that upstairs, and Mr. Quinn almost went over the balcony. I had to grab him by his belt because he was so excited. But I talked with you like that night or the next day, and I said, Kevin, like, how you doing? It's his third is incredible. Like, what a great race and everything. He's like, I feel pretty good about it, and it was totally cool, totally gracious that he was in the conversation. And I was like, God, he's like so competitive. That's almost like I didn't expect that reaction. And then after the Olympics, his tone totally changed. He said that was the most miserable thing watching them because he knew he could have been there.
I'm not sure what that noise is, but it's scaring me a little bit.
I'll show you what it is.
Is it your dog, Dave?
Lesion Ridgeback.
Oh my goodness!
The thing's a beast.
Well, so you make your first team, and you don't obviously stop there because then you swim the 200 breast. I go back to this event, the event that you were uncomfortable with 5 years ago, 4 years ago trials. You went 212 and break the U.S. Open record at one point, the fastest time ever swum on U.S. soil. And you make the team in the 200 breast. Do you remember your time in the 200 breast at this meet?
In 2016?
Yep.
I think 207 was my fastest time. Yeah.
207. So 5 seconds faster in a 200 breaststroke in 4 years as a adult male. That's a pretty big jump. Would you agree?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of the biggest things was, getting that confidence from 2012 and building it, and then actually having a race strategy. That was a huge thing instead of going for it. And that was a big thing that happened when I moved to Singapore with Sergio. I think Dave can appreciate this, but yeah, I think when I first got there, he would see me train. Like I said, I'm not the best trainer. I work as hard as I can, but I'm not necessarily going super fast. But yeah, he would be like, I don't get it. I don't understand how this goes 207 or 208 or whatever. And I was like, and so it was kind of nice. Like, he was just being funny. And so like we kind of figured out what the best strategy for my 200 breast would be with my strengths that, Dave and I worked on in high school and then throughout college. And, we went to stroke count, distance per stroke, the same thing I was doing in high school, but we just kind of made it into long course. So basically, I was taking anywhere from my 11 to 14 strokes every lap, no matter what. And, that turns super hypoxic, and it puts a lot of stress on the training. So, but, when I'm racing, I'm taking that many strokes a lap. So those are kinds of the different things that I need to learn. And then, kind of how to build throughout a 50 without a wall, how to, my glide, how to do that most efficiently without, giving up too much on the first 50 and things like that. Because in short course, a lot of it, it's a little bit of that, but it's more so just go, which kind of like I'm more wired towards. So it's a lot more patience and technique and, kind of just knowing how to work around everything.
Well, I don't want to gloss over the Olympics because obviously you go to the Olympics in Rio. You finish 4th in the 100, you finish 8th in the 200. You don't get on the medal podium, but making finals in your very first Olympic Games. But you did get on the podium as a member of the 400 medley relay. So what's that like? And you've been on national teams before. You've been in national meets. You've been at the World Championships prior to that. You've been on gold medal relays. What's it like being on an Olympic gold medal relay in that stage compared to all these other meets?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was like, it was one of the best things, that's kind of what you work for, you work to make the Olympics and get a gold medal. And, I was so thankful to be able to be there and represent the US and compete at that level and earn a gold medal. It was just a dream come true for sure.
So some people, they go to the Olympics and all of a sudden they want to, I'm going to relax. It's a little bit easier now. I've done my Olympics. This is a good off year. You kind of went a different way. Your coach, Sergio, comes back to the States. He begins working at Auburn. You go to Auburn as well. And now 2017 World Trials comes up. Talk about that meet, because it looks like that may have been, quite possibly one of the best meets you ever had in your life.
Yeah. I think that just like in 2012, I think all that started in 2016. I made the Olympics and, I was super proud, just like I was proud to get third in the final in 2012. But I got 4th in the 100 and just off the medal stand. My American teammate got 3rd, and, he got to be on the night relay. So I kind of took into my head his reaction after the relay and kind of being on the medal stand of the 100 breaststroke, just as I did those guys in the drug testing room, and kind of use that as motivation. I don't want to be the one spot off again. I want to be on that night relay. You want to be on the medal stand. And even in the 200, I didn't swim as well as I thought I should have. I think that was my best event that year. So, with all those things in mind, I was so happy that I had that experience, but I wasn't satisfied from a professional sense and personal sense in the pool. So, I've kind of used those things throughout that next year and these years as motivation.
So you at the World Championship Trials, which is 1 year later, for those of you guys that aren't sure about that, that happened in Indianapolis. You won the 50, the 100, and the 200 breaststroke, and you got to swim at the World Championships in those events. How did that meet go for you?
Well, yeah, the World Championships meet was great. I mean, the first event was the 200 breaststroke, and the year before I didn't do that well in it, and I think in prelims I was seated like 6th or something, so I was kind of nervous going into finals. But that was the one I wanted to get back, because the year before I trained mostly for the 200, and this year 200, but like a little bit more 100. And so that was the one I wanted to get back, and especially that final race, that one I was not proud of that one. So in finals, I remember just going out, felt smooth, and usually I go out fast, and the last 50 kind of die a little bit. The last 50 I just kept it smooth and long, and I came in and I had my fastest time by over half a second, and I think that was the one where I was really proud of that, coming back from last year and being able to do it an event that I don't necessarily like as much as the 100. I was really proud of that one. I don't usually like celebrate or anything like that usually too much after a race, but that one I definitely did a little bit.
Did a little fist pump?
Yeah, a little fist pump, a little point, but yeah, I usually don't do that. I think the only time I've done that was state my sophomore year, and then I think when I went like 148, I think the first time. So yeah, I was like super pumped about that one. But yeah, so it was a great meet. I went all faster times than the year before, and then at World Championships was awesome. I got to swim 11 times. So I swam, I made finals in the 50, 100, and 200, which I don't know if anyone else in the world did that in all 3 strokes. Because
you stole my thunder. You stole my thunder. I was going to use that one as a trivia question at the end. You stole it. That's good. Good to see you know it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know, because this day and age, everyone either swims the 100 and the 50 or just the 200. So I like to give props to people that swim all 3. So yeah, it's kind of funny in breaststroke. Like, you're swimming 50 breaststrokers who are basically bowling balls, and then 200 breaststrokers are like 400 IMers.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to train for all that kind of stuff and this day and age. So.
Well, I got someone who was talking smack about you with the 50 breaststroke, but we'll get to that at the end. So 2017, another successful year. Sergio was at Auburn, and for lack of better terms, Sergio leaves, goes to Virginia Tech. You have a decision to make. You decide to go back out west to Phoenix, and you're in Phoenix for a little bit of time. But you said it yourself at the beginning of this talk. You really embrace training with people that challenge you. And over the course of the last year, you obviously aren't in Phoenix anymore. Where are you, and who are you training with? And maybe you could talk a little bit about that environment.
Yeah, so I'm in Athens, Georgia right now, University of Georgia. After 2017, I had one year that was okay, but I'm not used to having those kinds of years. And then last year, just things weren't going that great. So I really had to analyze what was happening. I had to analyze myself, my training, my motivation, what was working, what wasn't working. And I came to the conclusion that what I was doing wasn't going to get me to where I needed to go. And so just like in 2015, I decided to go to Georgia, and I had to go to a place that, I would be uncomfortable with, but I knew if I was thrown that, I could learn a lot, and that could get me to the place that I needed to be. And Georgia is known as like an IM school, a 400 IM school. And and that's not me at all.
Have you done very many 400 IMs? I don't remember you ever talking about that event throughout this conversation.
Dave made me do a 400 IM once at St. Charles when I was a freshman, and I was in lane 1. And yeah, I remember turning for the freestyle, and they were just mocking me, like cheering in my face. And
you taught Coach Dave a lesson that day, huh? Don't put you in the 400 IM again.
Well, yeah, my breaststroke was like 0.2 seconds faster than my freestyle. So yeah, but no, I never swam that again. But yeah, so going to this place, and I don't swim IM or anything like that. I've gotten way better at training, just handling all the things that come with that up until here. But I still don't think I've swam like backstroke or butterfly more than like a 500 in like all throughout college. So, that was going to be a little bit of adjustment. And, but, I wanted to throw myself into that fire, and see what comes out. And this entire year was going great. I was getting better and kind of getting my confidence back and just training with other guys that are on the Olympic team, like Chase Kalish, two-time world champion, Gunnar Bench, Jay Litherland, who are also Olympians. Kind of just seeing just what they can do just every single day, motivates you. And other great breaststrokers that I've been on world championship teams with. So, kind of just put myself in that situation. And I think my competitiveness and my drive, hopefully it works out.
Well, you weren't lying. You literally named off 400 diameter, 400 diameter, 400 diameter. The first three names of the guys you train with. Do you ever make them train breaststrokes exclusively with you so that you can, one-up them?
Well, every Wednesday afternoon we have a stroke group, and breaststroke's notoriously the hardest one because Jack Bowerly writes it. So all those guys are scared to come over because usually the butterfly or the freestyle is a little bit easier. But every once in a while they have to come over here and, we get to put some work on them.
All right. Well, I only have a couple more questions, then we're going to open up to these guys. You brought it up at the beginning, and I know Coach Dave has talked about it. From what I understand, you are quite possibly the best breaststroke kicker he has ever seen. And can you just talk about, your focus on the kick and doing kick in general? And Coach Dave, maybe you can chime in a little bit about Kevin's kick. I guess just talk about the evolution of that and how you've become so strong at that.
Yeah. So I think from a very young age, my breaststroke kick was really good. And that's something I enjoyed, doing kick sets more than swimming, because swimming usually, was freestyle or anything else like that I didn't necessarily enjoy as much. And even when I was, 13, 14, that was the thing that I could keep up with the people in the fastest lane when I was in the slowest lane. Like I said before, they would be like looking over and they'd be like upset because I was keeping up with them. So I think right then I knew, I was like, okay, this is my ticket. If I just keep working at this and somehow, use it to my advantage in my stroke, then I have something. And so with that is the distance per stroke in my stroke. I try to be as efficient as possible, use my kick to my advantage, get into my streamline. But kicking's been the most important thing for me from, when I was a very young age.
Dave, what did you notice about his kick and breaststroke?
So he's once he got his timing coming up around the curvature, like he could really go and grab the water and get tremendous distance per movement, and that's really strainful on him because he's catching so much water. I talked about different challenges and choices he would make. He would then start trying to go. We were real big on not just swim practice, but something that would mimic a race. So kicking tempos that were 0.1, 0.11 and being able to hold it through 100 sets. Nobody else was willing to do that. Kevin kind of stresses that there's things that he doesn't work, but he's just not a traditional guy. So, dryland, he goes crazy on his kick sets. He's willing to do anything. I mean, literally any kind of set, and tighten up the screws and the intervals and get his kick rates in. He would hold it on every single length and hold those kick rates. And that was really important because when he started developing the back end of his race, that was his ace in the hole. He was better than anybody else at it. So, he worked really hard. He has issues because of that. Every once in a while, he'll get some loin pulls because he gets so much catch on it and he works so hard. So, Kevin, why don't you talk a little bit about managing that?
Yeah. Like I said, my kick is basically my lifeblood. So, I try to work that as best as I can, as hard as I can. And yeah, sometimes I get a little strain, in my groin, and that kind of takes me out from doing that for a little while. And that's kind of the worst thing for me because, breaststroke is what I do. So when that happens, I try to work on, my pull or just different things to get better. Because I could just not do anything, but I kind of want to work on my weaknesses when I can't use my strength. So pulling's been like the biggest thing for me this year to work on. But, with this quarantine, I've been doing a lot of things to try to strengthen my groins because I have this time. I'm not in the pool. I'm trying to do as much as I can to strengthen my groins so that when I do come back, hopefully those things won't happen as periodically or at all, doing some, physical therapy and, just strengthening different things. And I'm trying to do that with my shoulders as well because I know I get shoulder issues sometimes. So right now when I'm not in the water, I'm trying to strengthen those things because, if I was doing these exercises while I'm swimming, I think that would just make them tired while I'm swimming. So that it's kind of a double negative. So those kinds of things I'm trying to do. So hopefully next year, it kind of minimizes all that stuff.
Well, and for all the athletes on the call, the reason we're talking so much about Kevin's kick, obviously, is breaststroke is a leg-driven stroke. I mean, the legs are your lifeblood of being a breaststroker, and as you said it yourself, that is your focus of your breaststroke. Is without that kick, I mean, your breaststroke takes on a whole different meaning. So it's great to hear that you're finding ways to take care of yourself when you're injured, and you're also finding ways right now to strengthen it to make it even better once you're able to get back in the pool. My last question or comment, I guess, was a gauntlet comment that was thrown down to you. So apparently at an ISL meet, Mr. Matt Grievers decided to swim the 50 breaststroke. And whatever he did, we can say he may have gone a time that was a little bit faster than yours at that moment. He basically made some comment about the 50 breast not being that hard. And so I said I would bring that comment to you and see if you had any comments back to Matt, like when you'd be focusing on the 50 backstroke to race him.
Well, I think maybe that he swam that at a meet I wasn't at, maybe. So, first of all, if we were racing next to each other, that definitely wouldn't have happened. And third of all, I would like to watch his underwaters on that one, if you know what I'm saying.
Are you saying that maybe more than one dolphin kick was taken? Is what you're saying?
He used to try to challenge me in the 50 breaststroke at Arizona all the time, and we got to counting.
Well, I'm sure there's somebody on this call that might know Matt that can probably pass along that you are questioning the legality of that 50 breaststroke. So
I never said that, but no, Matt's a great guy. And, it's great racing him in the 50 breaststroke. I love when he comes in, it's new energy, So
if it's close in the 50, I'm going to say the 75 isn't even close. At that point, is his breaststroke over?
Yeah, I don't know. He might have done it. Who knows? But, don't put me in the 50 back, though.
Well, you said it yourself. You can't float yet, so we probably shouldn't put you in the 50 back just for safety purposes. All right. Well, I want to get to some questions. Carolyn, Matt's sister, is on here, and she says she'll be sure to pass along the message that we are talking about it. So I want to get to some questions. I'm going to read a couple. I'm going to have a couple kids ask you questions. Is that okay? So one of the questions we have on here, it was right at the beginning. What is your kind of motivation? Carmen asked, what is your favorite genre or song to listen to get ready for your racing?
That's a good question. I think I go through different genres based upon, I kind of put whatever I'm listening to at the time. So I can go from anywhere from, rock or hard rock to rap to like EDM. And then even go to like more chill stuff, it's kind of what my vibe is, but I kind of I do like more upbeat stuff. So, I like to keep it, keep me like get me going, things like that.
Okay. Parker and Avery Stanley want to know what your favorite dryland workout to do at home right now is.
Oh, my favorite dryland workout to do at home. Well, I've been doing a lot of abs, so kind of just hitting that. But one of my weaknesses, something that I'm definitely not good at, is push-ups. I've never been really too good at push-ups, because I've had some shoulder problems and I kind of just neglected it. So in this quarantine, I've tried to really work on my push-ups, because I'm kind of embarrassed that I can't do a certain amount of push-ups when everyone can just bust them out. So that's the one thing I've been trying to work on.
Okay. Well, I can't find the person that asked this question, but I'm going to tack on a part of it. I've seen your Instagram. You love food. You take lots of pictures of food. Yeah. So let's talk about what's your go-to meal prior to racing, and then what's your go-to celebration meal after racing?
All right. Well, the celebration one's easy. And it's also a pre-meet meal as well. Usually we just go to get a nice steak, a big steak.
What's a big steak? What's a big steak? We talking like filet? Are we talking tomahawk ribeye? Are we talking?
We've been known to go and get some tomahawk ribeyes, like 40 ounces, but that's usually after the meet. We would never do that before the meet.
Okay. So you have to have a smaller steak prior to the meet, and then that's the celebratory steak.
Yeah, but I think food is, it's one of my favorite things, and especially going to different swim meets and traveling the world with my teammates and stuff. It's something that kind of like brings us together, and people that you haven't seen for a long time, you would go out and you have a good meal, and you kind of just celebrate that, and appreciate what we're doing for a living. We're swimming every single day. We're doing something that we love to do. We're about to go swim in this meet. Like, what could be better? I'm seeing my really good friends, and we're going to have this great meal. So it's kind of more of just, it really makes me appreciate what we're doing. And, it's kind of like a tradition that we have.
Okay, well, I feel like I set myself up for this next question, but I'll ask it. What was your favorite thing about living in Singapore?
Well, the food was.
That's what I say. I feel like I set myself up with that comment, but.
Yeah, we would, after morning practice, we'd go to places called hawker centers, which are, they're local food. They're kind of like food stalls. So it's kind of like a food court, but local food. So all local Singaporean food. And we'd go after practice. We'd get first of all, I had to learn how to eat lunch for breakfast there, because they don't really have breakfast spots. So we'd go there. I'd get a huge plate of noodles. I guess I'd get like an egg or two on it, and a coffee after practice, and it would be like the greatest thing I've ever had. And it was like $2, or just like a cup of just all this crazy stuff. But it was amazing.
Okay, so we have a couple people want to have come on here and ask you some questions. So Jacob Cunningham, I saw your question in the chat, so we're going to unmute you. Why don't you ask your question to Kevin?
Okay. All right. So my question, Kevin, is because I swam with Dave and on Fox for a while, and I remember I was at some practices that you showed up to, and I've got to know what your favorite memory you have with Coach Dave is.
Oh man. My favorite memory with Dave. Oh man, there's so many. I'm trying to think. I mean, my favorite memory that's not, funny or anything like that was definitely seeing him in 2016. Actually, my favorite moment was in 2016 after I made the Olympic team in the 100 breaststroke. They kind of have like the award ceremony, and the coaches kind of get to parade around, and I just see Dave from across the pool just, going like this, like kissing, and then going and kissing babies. And that made me so happy, because, you know, all the things that we did together, all the hard work we put in, you know, and just Dave, you know, just enjoying himself. That was like my favorite memory.
That doesn't sound like Dave at all. Dave is so quiet and unassuming. I can't believe he was kissing babies.
Yeah.
How about Violet? Violet, I don't want to butcher your last name. Why don't you ask your question to Kevin?
What do you drink straight after either a meet or practice?
Yeah, after a meet or practice, I think my go-to is usually a protein shake. And if I can't drink a protein shake, I try to have like chocolate milk or something like that. But periodically throughout the day, I'm just trying to drink as much water as I can. Yeah, like when I was little, I was kind of like OCD about that. Like I would have like 8 water bottles in my swim bag at UIC, and I would be drinking all those. So like I would be sitting behind the blocks, just trying not to go to the bathroom before I dove in. But I've kind of chilled out on that a little bit. But yeah, protein shakes.
Amia, I hope I said your name right. Amia.
Yes, that's definitely how you say it. I have 2 questions actually. One of my questions are, how do you stay motivated and keep, I guess, maintain your confidence as you're going through a hard set, or either going up to the block before you're going on during a meet or whatever? How do you keep your confidence? And also I want to add on, how do you what are some valuable tips for breaststroke? I know you're talking about the kick, but also how to keep your start, I guess, in a good form. How do you keep a good technique?
Yeah, well, I mean, throughout a practice, I try to stay motivated, you know, kind of by things I was saying about, you know, some of your failures or something that hasn't gone your way. You know, for me, that was, you know, getting third or something like that. But there's many more things that you can use as motivation. Also, just having a goal in mind and wanting to reach that goal. When you're feeling unmotivated or tired during a practice, you can look towards that goal. Just remember that in the back of your head, and use that to get you through a set. And being confident before a race, you kind of build your entire confidence throughout the entire year. All the training that you put in and knowing that you did everything you could do to that point, you go, okay, I'm ready for this. I put in all this work. Now I'm just going to go out there and kill it. You know, I'm going to go out there and swim really fast. So those 2 things kind of go hand in hand. You know, you kind of use those motivation to gain the confidence. And that's kind of how I kind of do it throughout the season and leading up to a big meet. And for breaststroke, yeah, along with the kick, I think the most important thing to do is be as efficient as possible. And, you know, breaststroke's big into timing. So get everything moving and flowing smoothly, not, you know, stop and go. But I think the most important thing is to be as efficient as possible and kind of use your kick and glide and be as straight as possible.
How about Genesis? Do you have a question for Kevin?
I also have 2. My first one is, what is one thing you would change about your swim career? And if you didn't commit to swimming, what other sport do you think you'd be doing?
Well, my swim career, I mean, at this point, I don't think I would change anything, because a lot of the things I would change got me to where I am today. You know, another example is 2013 World Championships. I was on the 4x1 medley relay, and it was the last race. You know, we swam it, we won, and so we're world champions. And then we find out we got disqualified. and that happened on the breast to back takeoff. So it turns out I jumped, and so I DQ'd a gold medal world championship relay. And right after that, I had to go do an interview with all the other guys with NBC Live, and I'm 19 years old. Don't really know what just happened. So yeah, that wasn't a good experience, but I used that to make sure that never happened again. And when I got another opportunity to be on the relay, that, you know, I'd capitalize. And that's just another thing. Like, there's a lot of ups and downs in your career, and, you know, you just have to learn from every single thing that happens. And at this point, I can't say that I'd be where I am right now if I changed anything, you know? I don't know where I'd be.
I gotta tell you, I love the answer. You basically just said every opportunity you learn something, good or bad. You learn what works, you learn what doesn't. I think that's a phenomenal way to look at things. AJ, do you have a question?
Yeah. What did you feel like when you went to Singapore?
Well, I definitely felt out of place. I'd never been there before. I didn't know anything about it. Luckily they spoke English, but a lot of their cab drivers, they speak Singlish, so you can't really understand them, and they can't understand me. So that was a little rough, but, you know, my main thing was, I thought, you know, I just got to take a risk, you know, and I'm so happy that I took a risk and kind of trusted what I thought, like my gut instinct after talking to Sergio, and I took a risk and did something that I normally wouldn't do in order to reach a goal. And I think that's kind of the main takeaway for me.
All right, well, I only have two more questions, then we're going to let you go. They're pretty simple one. Do you remember what your most challenging Coach Dave Krodiak set was? Something that Coach Dave challenged you with. Doesn't need to be long. Could just be something that you felt like was a challenge for you.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember a specific one. But the one that's coming to my head right now was, I think it was my senior year. I don't think I've only kicked breaststroke on a board, and like from when I was a freshman on, and he told me I had to kick freestyle for the remainder of like the summer because I was going to college and they're going to make me do those things. And I remember I just had to do a simple set, like 10 100s on, I don't know what they were on, but I remember I couldn't do it. And he made me do it until I got it until I made it. I think there was like 10 100s on whatever time. And I was locking up, and that was the hardest kick set I've ever done because I've only just kicked breaststroke. And I remember I was not happy with him because I was like, I'm never going to have to kick freestyle. What are you talking about? But, you know, he made me do it, and I can kick freestyle a little bit now because of it.
Okay. And then a last question that I saw in this chat, and I thought it was just because I have to ask something funny to end this. Disney or Universal, if you had to choose one, which would you go to? And Star Trek or Star Wars, if you had to pick one?
I think I'd pick Lord of the Rings.
Ooh, secret option 3. I like it. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's one I grew up with. Disney or Universal? Probably Universal. I don't know. I don't know.
I think all the coaches in the chat heard you say Lord of the Rings, and we all got excited, and all the kids are probably like, that.
Yeah, Excellent. Lord of the Rings for sure, by far. Yeah, my dad took me to those movies as a kid, so yeah, those will be in my heart.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for spending some time here, answering some questions, telling your story. On behalf of all the coaches, the athletes, we wish you nothing but the best of luck in 2021. Hopefully you're able to get back to some sort of normal and get ready for the trials here. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you out there in Tokyo.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, good luck to everyone. And yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, have a great night. Thank you, everyone. Make sure you say thank you to Kevin.
you.
Bye.
Guys.